Welcome to another Unwinding with Fiber and Fabric. As I sat down to record today, the thought came to mind that it has been a couple weeks of keep calm and knit on. And for any of you that do handcrafting, you know that our crafts, that our handiwork, it helps us stay a little bit calmer in a chaotic environment. And that definitely describes my knitting that I have been doing these past couple weeks. So I have some knitting projects. I have a couple EPP, English paper piecing projects to share. So we'll just go ahead and dive in with the project I was working on the last time I recorded. This hat that was inspired by the Musselbugh hat. My husband was so kind, and he actually did wear this while he was out working on a car. I am sure I will share a picture here. He was kind enough to let me take a picture of him as well. So it was definitely a case of I didn't have small enough knitting needle tips for my interchangeable needles when I started this project. So I made some adjustments. The inside layer, because it is, of course, the 2 layers, the inside layer is a little bit smaller. I reduced the stitches. And so it is a little bit smaller, so it does kind of fit, but it's a loose fit, which I don't have a problem with. But I know a lot of people would like a little bit tighter hat to stay on. And my husband did indicate that he wouldn't mind having one that was a little bit more snug. So, because this is a wonderful project to just knitting around and knitting around and knitting around, and that really relaxes me on the high stress days, I went down and dug through my stash and pulled out, oh, actually, let me set that down. I pulled out a skein that I was spinning during Tour de Fleece this past year. And you'll notice that my center pull ball has a lot of wrapping around the outside because, yes, I knitted up to this amount once before, only it was really huge. So I took it all back to the crown and started again. Now, I can't put it on my head because I have gone with a small cable so that it's all bunched up. It's easier on my hands, and I have less likelihood of the stitches slipping off the needles. I have a bamboo. This is Knitter's Pride Knit Picks. It's a bamboo. I think they call it Basics or something like that. But I was able to get that into a smaller size. This is the 2.5 millimeter, I think. The US 3, I think is what it says. And it's working really well because while the yarn is certainly a little bit maybe larger gauge than this is, the smaller needle working with this gauge is helping compensate for my very loose tension. And even though I've been tense and there's been things going on that have been anxiety inducing, when I'm just knitting in the round like this, I relax. My stitches don't get too tight, just the opposite. I get really loose. And so the smaller needle with this is working quite well. I have put it on a larger cord, and I have tried it on, and it does fit, and it does fit a little more snugly. So we're hoping that when I record a video again soon, we will have a hat that fits my husband a little more snugly. Of course, I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do it like this one without a brim, or just keep knitting in the round so that it can be folded back as a brim. That's probably what I'm going to do because honestly, it is a very stress-free knitting project. And I love the color. So this is a hand spun that I did. If you go back to my Tour de Fleece, this is the stuff I was spinning when I was going to the knitting coop and spinning on Saturdays at the knitting coop. It is a Teague de Boulay blend that I carded myself. I hand dyed myself. Oh, it is some of the most soft and scrunchy and lovely fiber, and it's dyed in a colorway that my my husband loves. He really loves, especially this color family here, this turquoise, this teal, this aqua. And so I think he will wear this if I have the gauge right and it fits. If it fits my head, it should fit him fine. I think it will work great once it has the 2 layers, because while I have hair, he does not, and our heads are actually very similar in size. So I think that this will do the trick. So that is on my needles. Again, it's a wonderful, just knitting in the round. One of the other videos that I watched were, because I watched a bunch of videos with people making the Musselbugh hat. And one of the things that they kept saying is they love the fact that they could just really relax knitting around. Much like when you're doing the long part of the sock, only you don't have any heels, you don't have anything like that. You just have some increases and then you'll have some decreases, and it's just knitting in the round. So I do really love this. It's easy, it's portable. I had a meeting to go to last night and I was able to take it with me just in case I needed it. I have a doctor's appointment coming up, and if it's not finished, it will be going with me. So we'll see what happens. And my husband is such a good sport. I think whether I make it short or long, he'll still wear it if it fits. But again, he wore the green one. He went out there. It worked in the garage. I mean, he's like, but I'm going out to work on a car. I said, I don't care. It can get washed. It's, use it. So I'm now dropping my yarn. Okay, so that is one of the projects that, the keep calm and knit on. I have another project. Let me reach down and grab this. This is one that I started last summer, fall. I guess it was actually last summer. And I did a lot of knitting on it, and then I put it down. I haven't knit on it in a while. And I'm a little worried that I'll forget because I'm not using a pattern. I'm doing it's a top-down sweater. Let me see. It's a top-down sweater that has this open, kind of just rolled collar, very loose. It's meant to be just very relaxed, very comfy. And it is, I was playing around with a bit of a textured pattern, and I'm going to have to spend a little time trying to remember what was the pattern repeat that I was doing, or because I almost, hold it up, I almost have the yoke done, I may just go to regular knit here on out. I may have enough. What I was trying to do is do all of this colored section in this texture, this fun texture, and then I'd switch to just a regular knit afterwards. But if I can't remember what the pattern was, because again, it wasn't written down. If I can't remember what the pattern was, can't figure it out, then I'll just start knitting. But it's been really fun. I had some yarns that I wanted to use up. It was a de-stash that somebody had, and so I have so I'll show you this color here. And then what I'm doing is I'm holding it with two very, very fine lace weight strands. And these are this is yarn that I bought for something years ago in a big bulk on great discount, and it I think we were going to use it for weaving or something like that. And I thought, oh, I have enough of this. If I combine it, if I separate it into multiple small balls, I can hold it together with this color and create the thicker yarn. I also have, I'm knocking stuff down. I don't even need the cats around me today to have chaos. So there is another fiber. So here is the rest of the fiber that I have. So I have this color as well. I'll pull it out of the bag. And again, just holding it with two strands of this lace weight merino. it's making it so that it's easy to spin up. This is an indie dye. Oh, yes. This is so I'm combining a couple things. This yarn is one that I got in a D-stash by, I believe it was the cesium yarn that I have. Yes, based on the band, which is there we go, a local indie dyer. This yarn was part of the so how do I do this? This is the one I bought, sorry. This is the one I bought from Cesium. This and a second ball of this, which I've already knit, was from a D-stash from something called Sweet Tea Yarns. And I have no idea, the colorway was called Let's Do Brunch. And it may be a company that still exists, and it may be no longer exists. It looks like the person who I bought the D-stash from, she purchased the fibers, her yarns in 2018. So, yes. So this wonderful purple was from Cesium yarn. The other two is from Sweet Tea Yarns. And I am knitting this up for a sweater, probably for my daughter. There's another. So I still have, I still have another whole bunch of this. So the object, a bunch. So what I'm thinking of doing is I will continue to knit. I set my needles, my project down here on the floor, and my orange kitten is over here going, ooh, something I can chew on? She wants the needles, not the yarn. She's leaving that alone, but she's looking at the needles just a little carefully. So I just moved that with my foot. But, so the object with this is a top-down raglan style sweater. And the idea is that I will probably switch away from the pattern, or may or may not switch away from the pattern. I was intending to do this pattern until I'm ready to split off the arms. But when I run out of this color, then I'll switch to the other color like this. And if I need to, I'll go to just holding 2 strands of that together if I somehow run out of these. So it is a completely just kind of letting it work its way through. And it was a lot of fun to knit this pattern. It was something really simple, a simple case of increase and decrease to create this texture. Traditional raglan style, where I do increases here at the arms, both front and back. So yeah, I'm doing it just as I figured it would be a fun kind of just pullover, scrunchy, comfy, maybe wear a t-shirt or turtleneck underneath it, and it just fun. And when I was working on it last summer, it was a keep calm and knit on type project, because I could sit and I could knit and I didn't have to think too much. I just followed the same rhythm of the pattern, and it calmed me. So that's one that I'm working on. I'm planning to actually pick this up and start working on it again. I wanted to share that with you. And just so you know, yes, I have, like everyone else, I have tons of projects in the background. And sometimes they get worked on and sometimes they don't. And right now, I am definitely doing the knitting for the calming effect. So I've set aside my my Afghan blocks that I shared, my blanket blocks that I shared in the last video. I've set those aside because right now, knitting in the circle, knitting in the round, just going around with basic knit stitches, it's such a calming, relaxing thing to do. In fact, I've had a hard time putting it down so that I could actually work on my English paper piecing projects. So I did want to share, I did get this guy, whoops, upside down. I did get this guy pin basted. This is my big, I'll show a picture here of the pattern. I did get it pin basted this week. I got it finished. I got the border sewn on, and I got it pin basted, and I have it ready to hand quilt. But it's funny when I hand quilt, when I knit, it's all handwork, but each one has a different way in which it calms me. And I find that when I'm knitting in the round, just knitting and knitting and knitting, I can focus, I can focus quite well on what I'm watching on TV. When I'm quilting, I can still focus, but I'm looking down a lot more than when I'm knitting. When I'm knitting, like many of us, when we're just doing plain stockinette stitch in the round, we don't actually have to watch our hands very much. We feel for markers if we need to do, any changes, front, back, that kind of thing. But we really can just really knit in the round and not watch our hands. So I love knitting when I really actually do want to watch a program or when I need to read subtitles. So hand quilting, I need to look down. I need to look at what I'm working on. Hand piecing, the same thing. So and with crochet, a lot of the same, I can do a lot of crochet without looking at my hands all the time, but not the same as when I knit. So each project that I'm working on has a different relaxation level quality about it. Much like with spinning, I can spin. There are some things I can spin and watch TV and very seldom have to look at my hands. There are other things I need to look at my hands more often. And so right now I'm in a period of time in which doing something that I can watch TV and not look at my hands is exactly what I want. But I wanted to share that I am making progress with this. I will eventually have this as a pattern to share. It can be done either as a wall hanging or as a table runner. I may have it to share as soon as it's finished. I may have it to share closer to next year's seasons. I may have it to share as soon as I finish, and it may still be close to next year's Christmas season. I did want to explain with it, it has an evergreen, and even though a lot of people will say, well, that's a Christmas. No, I actually intended to have this as a winter. To me, the evergreen represents the eternal nature that reminds us that when it's winter, that the sun will come out again. Very much like the rainbow. For me, the evergreen and the rainbow both symbolize a similar concept of not losing hope. So this is something that I want to have up through the winter months. But I admit, I already have a lot of my Valentine's, my February quilts up, so this probably won't go up onto the wall until next year, even if we get more snow this winter. So it's another ongoing project, and I'm really, really thrilled with the way this one came together. This one came together nicely. So let's wrap up with my other English paper piecing. And as you can see, it's not done. I will show a picture here. This one is not done because I was trying to get it done and I was working really furiously, and I would have had it done if I would have just simply got up this morning and worked on it a little bit before recording. But when I pieced this one together, I forgot that I personally like to piece these together by doing units, this unit right here, okay? This piece, and this piece, those three. Making all those, sewing those three pieces together as a unit, and then bringing those units together into this. I did not do this with this because I was distracted And I really think I'm going to be taking apart that center seam and starting over with that. I may go ahead and finish these outer pieces and then just open up the center and reattach. I may just go ahead and do that, but it is not matching. I will show you so you can see. It is not matching up in the center quite as well as I would like it to. Now, am I being nitpicky? Yes. On this one, I'm being a little bit nitpicky. And so I'm going to try to fix that. It's not a fault of the pattern. It really is, in this case, partly due to the thickness of the material that I have used as my paper and due to the chaos that I've been experiencing this week. When my children were little, like many people, I had the thought that how could it ever be more chaotic than this? That when they're grown, it's going to be so wonderful. When they're adults and they've moved out of the house, it's going to be so wonderful. And that may still be the case sometime in the future. But when they were young, everything, well, I didn't necessarily, we can't control everything. We never can. But I had a lot more control. When they're adults, I have no control. I have a little bit of influence, but no control. And when mom is needed, sometimes everything else becomes hard to fit in. And one of the things about encouraging my children to go out and see the world and follow their passions and serve others in capacities is that somebody has to be the anchor. Somebody has to be the home base. And that's me and also my husband. And that means when exciting things happen or not so exciting things happen, I have to just become the anchor. And it shows up in some of my work. And I have learned over the years of my life, when I was young especially, and all through the years of trying to understand, I watched something recently where somebody who had chronic health issues, a young person who had chronic health issues, commented that that these chronic health issues, when people look at her and say, oh, well, you have chronic health issues because you haven't prayed enough. She responded, no, it's because the Lord knew that I was so powerful and strong that I needed these things in order to level the playing field, make it a little bit fairer for everyone else. And regardless of what your faith or belief is, I think there is something to be said about that sentiment. And I know that through my life, I have learned to embrace a little bit of that. There's some arrogance in that sentiment. And anyone who deals with chronic illness and chronic pain knows that occasionally we really do have to take on a little bit of an arrogance, because otherwise we're running out of spoons. And sometimes we do have to put up a little bit of a bold statement just to make ourselves feel like we can get through the next challenge. And I listened to this young person and I thought back to myself when I was that age, especially because at that point I had no idea what was really going on. Sometimes we do need to actually say, yeah, the joy that we have in life is not because we can't do. It's because we've had to learn how to choose what we do with real dedication. And sometimes it's okay to leave this. Most of the time I do. And sometimes it's okay to take the stitches out and try again. But it all depends on how many spoons we have in that drawer. And for anybody who's not following me on that, just do a Google search of spoon theory and you'll see one of the best examples of someone trying to explain to their friends daily life. Joy comes not from being held back. Joy comes from finding a way to carve out a path despite being held back. We can't always change. We can't always get rid of and remove our fetters, but we can sure figure out another way to do the things we want to do. Some things may not be possible, but I believe there's really good substitutes out there that may actually be better, at least for us, than whatever it is the fetters are preventing us from doing. So I will post this pattern will be available. Again, the error is not the pattern. It is the technique, the using it, the week, the chaos, the variables. And that's what I love about quilting. That's what I love about, I will share that here. And I share about knitting. It is in the variables. We are one of the variables, but it is in the variables that we create our art, our joy, not from being alike, not from doing it like someone else, not having a finished product like someone else, but knowing that we are the most important variable in the project. So I am going to wrap up a tiny bit early today. That is a good thing, right? So I wish you all a happy unwinding with fiber and fabric in the week and weeks ahead, and I will see you again really soon. Until then, best wishes.